Hey guys, Stanley King here, broker salesman with Remax Unlimited in Las Vegas, Nevada. I want to tell you about something that is going to change your life. This is probably going to be one of the most important videos that you ever watch. If you don't know about this topic of buying a home, this is highly important. Like I said, it will change your life. So I want to talk to you today about renting versus buying. A lot of Americans today are choosing to rent, and for me, that's hard to watch. I've rented in the past, and I understand why you would rent a place. Usually, people who rent, they don't plan to be where they're going to be for very long. They need that ability to get up and go somewhere else. But when you rent, you're usually locked into a lease, so that's a little difficult. And so I'm going to talk about the advantages of renting and the advantages of buying. And I'm going to have to say, I skew way over on the side of buying, if you can. So, first of all, I need you to think about this. Every property is owned by somebody. Usually, that person doesn't buy that property with cash. Sometimes they do, but it's very rare. Normally, people buy a property and they borrow money from the bank to buy that property. And they pay what's called a mortgage. They take out a mortgage with the bank, which means the bank lends them the money to buy the property, and then they have to make payments, usually over 15, 20, or 30 years. They pay all of that money back, and then the property is theirs, free and clear. So if they buy it when they're 30, they'll have it paid off when they're 60. So I need you to think about this. When you rent, you're paying the landlord, you call him the landlord, but the landlord's paying the bank. The landlord is using your money that you are paying for rent to pay their mortgage. Think about that. It should be you who's buying the property, not the landlord. But again, a lot of people, it's okay that you don't understand this, but a lot of people just don't understand the concept of when I pay the rent, I'm paying the landlord and the landlord's paying the bank. And the landlord's basically using me to slowly buy this property. That's that's hard. Most people think I'm paying rent to make the landlord rich. A lot of times the landlord's not making a ton of money off of your rent, but they are paying off their mortgage. And when they have their mortgage paid off, they're making 100% profit on your rent. Obviously, they have to pay expenses like painting and fix the roof, that kind of stuff, but that's nothing in comparison to how much rent they're getting. So if you're a renter, I need you to put that in your head. You are making that person wealth. And when I say that person, I mean your landlord. And again, they're not putting that money in their pocket today. They're taking your rent and they're paying their mortgage payment to the bank with the money you gave them. It's magic, right? Well, think about this. If you're renting a property for $1,500 a month, this is just an example, you could theoretically buy a place for $300,000. I guarantee in most of the United States, $1,500 is maybe a two-bedroom apartment. It's expensive to rent now. Take that money if you can. Think about it. 1,500 bucks per month you're paying to somebody so they can have their mortgage paid, and someday down the line they have that building paid off. Change your mindset and think. Set a goal for yourself. I want to buy my own property. You could buy a condominium, you could buy a townhome, you could buy a house, you could buy a manufactured house. There's a lot of places in the United States where you can still buy a place for $1,500 a month. I know it sounds crazy, it sounds impossible, but it's not. So here's the deal. To buy a property, what happens, this is amazing. When somebody buys a property, when you rent, you don't really care that the wall looks crappy, or you don't really care that the plumbing's, you'll call the repair person or whatever if the plumbing backs up, but you're not really too concerned about it, but you're not going to do it. When you own a house, all of a sudden everything changes in your mind. You want that house to look great. You want the plumbing to be great. You want the paint to be great. All of a sudden you start fixing it up. They call that pride of ownership. It's just when you own something, all of a sudden your mindset changes with everything. And you just take a lot more pride in your home, your community. You start to participate in different things. And I'm not saying that renters don't do that. Sometimes they do, and sometimes they do take pride. But the majority of the time, because I see rentals that are sold all the time, and usually they're definitely not nearly in as good a condition as a house that somebody owns. Now, to buy a home for you take that $1,500 payment that you were going to pay towards rent. If you go to the bank and say, listen, I'm paying rent of $1,500 per month, and I've been doing that for 3 years, and you talk to a banker, especially, and here's what I recommend too, go to a credit union. You can go to a bank like Bank of America or Wells Fargo, but their standards for what they want for down payment, your taxes, everything is much more strict than a credit union. Find your local credit union, go in there, talk to the person who does mortgages, and you'll be surprised how helpful they are. They're incredible. Credit unions, they have a different, I think it's called a charter from the federal government. So yes, they are a bank, but they run by different rules than the big banks, the Wells Fargos, the Chases, the B of A's. Talk to that person and say, what is it going to take for me to buy a house? And they're going to say, well, you've been paying rent of $1,500. You're going to need a down payment. They're going to tell you how much that down payment is. And the beauty is, if you're a veteran, you only need $1 down. It's basically no money down. You can have the seller pay the closing costs, and you, instead of taking that $1,500 that you're paying to a landlord to pay his mortgage, you can buy a property, and that $1,500 can go towards paying down the mortgage, and you can have the home. And usually a $300,000 home versus a two-bedroom condo that you're renting, it's so different. It's incredible. Once you have a house, you have a garage, you have a yard, you don't have to have those things. You can buy a condo too, but it's the amount of property that you get versus what you get when you're renting is usually what I see. It's usually double what you were renting. So that's absolutely incredible. But once that banker tells you, hey, look, you need a down payment, and again, if you're a veteran, you don't need a down payment. That's amazing. It's thank you for your service. The government has a loan program for you veterans out there. Most veterans, not most, but a lot don't know about that program. They don't utilize it and they continue to rent when they could own. They could own a piece of land with a shop on it and a house, and they could have a place for a dog and kids to play, all that kind of stuff. It's really cool. And if you're a first time home buyer, you've never owned before, the government has a program called an FHA loan. It only requires a 3.5% down payment. That means that, on a $300,000 purchase, well, let's do the math really quick. 3.5%. I believe that's what is that? That's a $10,500 down payment. That's not a lot of money, and you can request the seller to pay your closing costs. I know it's like, how do you ever save $10,500? Borrow it from somebody, borrow it from a friend, borrow it from a relative, whatever, and agree to pay them back. You can definitely put that money together, and you can pay your friend back or your family member back over time. That's how you save that money. If you have $0 in the bank, but somehow you're able to get this $1,500 every month, work with the credit union, get approved for a loan, and then reach out to an agent, a really good agent. Again, I'm with Remax. I've never met a Remax agent who isn't spectacular. Just ask me for a referral. You can call me 702-408-6220. Remember, This video is going to change your life. This is important that you buy a house. I want you to think if you're 30, if you're 40, 45, in 30 years or less, you're going to have this house paid off. That house is going to be yours. That house will probably go up in value. I don't want to say certainly it'll go up in value, but most likely it'll go up in value. So that $300,000 place will be paid off, and in 30 years, most likely will be worth $600,000 to $700,000. At that point, you can sell that house. That's your retirement money. That's your freedom. You're no longer stuck with having to pay somebody rent. That's an incredible thing. You can have a goal of owning that house, paying it off. It gives you something to look forward to work towards. That's a beautiful thing. And I want you to think about this as well. So when you buy a house and you put $0 down, or you put 3.5% down, $10,500, and it's a $300,000 house, I know you're going to understand this concept. If that house goes up year one, 10%, that means the house went up $30,000 in value. Where on earth can you just live somewhere where you were going to make the payment anywhere, put a $10,500 down payment, and turn it into $10,500 plus the $30,000 appreciation? All of a sudden, your $10,500 is $40,500. If let's just say the house appreciates the next year, if it did it 10% again, it's like all of a sudden that's another $33,000. This happens every day, and this is why wealthy people love real estate so much. Most wealthy people didn't start out wealthy. They started out just like you or me. They bought their first home when they were younger. Maybe they were 35, maybe they were 45. It just depends, but they realize very quickly that you can put a smaller down payment, and that amount of money will turn into what's called equity. If you sell that house after 2 years, and let's say it's gone up $60,000, you'll walk away from that transaction after all the costs and everything with at least $45,000 in your pocket. And everybody wonders, how do you make money and save money when everything's so expensive? That's the secret right there. And that's why this video is going to change your life. Listen, if you want to know more, I can talk about the tax deduction for the interest, the taxes. It's incredible. Everything changes. Instead of just paying normal taxes on your income, you can start to write off your interest. There are such advantages to owning a home. Not only do you get to enjoy pretty much twice the place, the government also gives you money back on your taxes for owning the house. So that $1,500 payment, at the end of the day, it's really not $1,500. It'll be like $1,200, maybe $1,100. You know what? I'll explain it to you right now what I mean by a tax deduction. So the interest on your loan, so let's say your loan is at 5% interest and you've borrowed, what was it, $289,000 just for simplicity's sake. And your payment on that loan is $1,500 a month. Almost all of the payment at the start for the first, I don't know what it is, 15 years or something like that. The way they do the loans is they make most of it to go towards interest. That interest, you're allowed to write that off on your taxes. What's that mean? Let's say that you made $50,000 and you've been paying, uh, let's just say $1,000 a month payment. Basically, what happens is that $12,000 in payments that you make for the year, you're allowed to take that off of your $50,000 income. So instead of paying taxes on $50,000, you pay taxes on $38,000. A lot of times that'll drop you into a lower tax bracket. Also, the property taxes that you pay, you're allowed to write those off. So if that's whatever, $300 per month, that's another $3,600 per month you can write off of your income. So again, you take that off of the 50,000. That's amazing. All of a sudden you're paying taxes on mid $30,000 of income instead of 50,000. So at the end of the day, again, you're actually saving money by buying, getting twice the property, and you're getting ownership. There's so many advantages to owning a home. It's incredible. It'll change your life. Again, if you want to know more, please call me 702-408-6220. I'm telling you this because somebody told me this at one point. It changed my life. I decided to get into real estate and try to help as many people as possible. I sold 1,400 homes during my career. I have so many satisfied clients. It's just incredible. And if you need an agent where you live, I don't care if you're in Alabama, if you're in South Africa, if you're in Ohio, Canada, it doesn't matter. Call me and I'll help refer you to a quality agent. Most likely it would be a REMAX agent, but it'll be a quality agent who can help you through this process. Again, my name is Stanley King. I'm a broker salesman here in Las Vegas. I've been selling real estate for 2 decades. It's changed my life. Owning a home has changed my life. Not renting anymore has changed my life. Give me a ring. I look forward to helping you. Again, one more time, 702-408-6220. Thank you very much for watching. And as you can tell, the winner is you need to buy a home.